This is a special video that's near and dear to yours truly. It's about being a woman in federal government contracting. I'm going to just share with you some of kind of the pros and cons and just different things that I've encountered being in this space for well over 10 years. One thing about being a woman small business owner is that currently 5% of contracts are allocated for women-owned small businesses. It's awesome space to be in because there's 2 designations specifically for women: women-owned small business set aside and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. So during my career, these were very helpful because, as you can imagine, many in this space tend to be white men. And when you really think about the history of the military, for instance, it was largely segregated. Many people of color were unable to move up the ranks and become generals and admirals. Many in the federal government, similar situation. Those who moved up often were white men. So many in this space of federal government contracting enter through serving our amazing country and or working for the federal government. So by them partnering with a woman-owned small business who has that designation, it's value add. That was one of the ways I was really able to get into the doors of very experienced and strong small businesses, as well as larger businesses. For example, my flagship company has a relationship with IBM. The reason that they wanted to partner with us is because, woman, I'm Black. There we go. I mean, more than just that. They weren't just like, oh, we're bounty hunting. Where's a Black woman? There's things about the business too, right? So it adds value. And what's key in the federal government is that you want to make sure you're always adding value as a vendor, as a partner, as well as you're making life easier through what you offer, your products and services. So it's definitely a bonus being a woman in this space. I also want to share some things because often I'm asked, have you experienced sexual harassment? What is it like being a woman in this space where there's all these men? Have you been discriminated against? All different types of questions come up. I'm very forthcoming, and that's why I'm making this video. And here you go. To my knowledge, I haven't really run into any blatant discrimination per se, because when you think about it, in an employment situation, there's more data points, especially if you're working for that employer. For instance, you may learn who received the position. You may know a little more about the politics. So you are able to kind of put together, oh, perhaps I was discriminated against. Or it's really blatant, where people are writing racial slurs or they've hung up nooses. Got it. In the federal government space, yeah, you can request a debrief. They'll list the name of the vendor, but never has anyone said, well, we didn't go with you because you're a Black woman. I've never experienced that before. I did have a contracting officer once tell me with a particular military organization that their division was definitely an old white man's club. And she's like, I just want you to be aware of it. Take it for what it is. So as far as being a woman, often I'm the only one. And many events or meetings that I've attended in my 10 plus years of being in this space. Definitely the only one with this popping curly hair. My gosh, amazing. But often the only woman, the only Black woman, and a lot of these events. They tend to be smaller events or very specific type of events. So it's really important that you are comfortable potentially being the only one. For instance, a woman I'm coaching, she's at Guantanamo Bay right now. She's my amazing client, and she's the only one. She's the only Black female government contractor on that site visit. And personally, I'm beyond comfortable in those types of spaces. For instance, I went to a K-8, in which I was the only person of color. I was the only person there. So I'm really comfortable with that and for around any kind of situations like that. For those of you who are watching, it's something where you may need to just take a moment and just embrace it and run with it. Because the thing is, when it comes to these events, when it comes to our clients, at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we desire connection and relationships, right? We desire them so strong from other people and animals that the animal industry, pet industry is like $1 billion industry. So imagine how that applies to other human beings. So when going to these types of events like networking, ask and focus on the most important thing that you will come across in every single one of these. You may want to lean in to hear it. That is that person. We are the most important person in our lives, definitely next to our higher powers, but we're the most important. We love talking about ourselves. We do, we love it. So when you meet people, even if they're in uniform or they look different or they speak different from you, just ask them about themselves. Oh, when did you start this company? Who are some of your clients? What are some of the roadblocks that you've run into? You know, oh, do you have children? I know I have a couple. It's really hard for me to travel. I'm away from them for a couple of days. These are all areas people can relate to, and they would love to talk about themselves, their business, their clients, their accolades, maybe some cars, maybe a sport. Who knows? Even if you're not into the sport, you can even ask, hey, are you watching any baseball lately? And I don't know, you know, it's about, you're trying to connect on a level that is where a person's going to be like, oh my gosh, wow, I had a really good time talking to Lisa. I would really love to get to know her more. Maybe we can do some work together, because you need people to know, like, and trust you. That's what you want. It's super important, because one of the mistakes I made early on was thinking, oh, people who look like me or talk like me or have a similar background as they're going to be like my wing person. They're going to be my biggest cheerleader. They're going to be this amazing mentor and they're going to really help me. No. Some of them scam me. Some of them were just dirtbags. So I had to learn to align myself with people who made sense and aligned with the values of my flagship company, as well as my personal values. Very important. The other thing that people, tend to ask is about the sexual harassment piece. I have experienced sexual harassment from government contractors, military members, government employees. I reported the most extreme incident that happened, and they took care of it. Also, at a client site, I had a former employee who had kind of witnessed some sexual harassment that was going on, and she went through the proper channels, and that agency took care of it. One thing about the federal government is they have all different types of reporting channels, and most government contractors have some type of process or procedure in place to report anything. There have been situations where it didn't faze me. And this goes back to your choices, who you are. I know who I am. I'm very strong. I'm very confident. I love myself. And I never look and never will look at this space as my personal Tinder. And also, I have a high tolerance for the inappropriate. Just want to put it out there. So there was a situation once where, so I was outside of the National Guard headquarters with my client, kind of waiting for the shuttle bus. So the little area looks like a normal bus stop. And while we were there, it was a little chilly. So I remember having a jacket on, and this gentleman in uniform walked by and he said to me, hey, you have really nice shoes. And he continued walking. And I turned to my client and I asked him, I was like, what does that mean? And he said, oh, that's a way of him saying that you have really nice legs. Well, I did and I do. So for me, I took it as a compliment because I worked really hard on my legs and I love my body, even my little cellulite. I love it all. That's just how I took it. Okay. For those of you viewing, it may land different for you. But in that instance, that was it. Nothing else happened. I've never been in some kind of experience where I was scared or worried or concerned or anything of that nature. I have found that having solid boundaries is very key, because it's not just about, sexual harassment or anything of that nature. It could also involve alcohol or other things that these different business owners or your clients may want you to partake in. Before I share that, I do want to say that the experiences that I had came from both men and women, were kind of the perpetrators of the sexual harassment. But there was the one that I did report. As far as the boundaries, there, especially early on, there was a lot of drinking in this space, and it could have been because I wasn't sober then. My first few years, I was definitely an active alcoholic. So I drank a lot and drank with military members, government employees, drink during the day, drink. So there was a lot of drinking. However, again, nothing inappropriate happened. It's just something that it could have been because I'm an alcoholic. It could have been part of getting to know people. But I just want to share that I have noticed that alcohol is a piece. For instance, there were different events in Orlando, government contracting events. And during the luncheon, they would offer wine or have a bar. Doesn't mean you have to go and have 7 drinks like I may have. However, it's just something to be aware of. The other thing about being a woman in this space is that there are NAICS codes that are set aside especially for us women, which is awesome. I've noticed, they really run the gamut. There's a lot in the construction space. So this is really cool, because then it again adds to your value add, and that the government has expanded them. When I first started out 10 years ago, they didn't really have things like that. So now not only do they have the program, but they're adding more and more and more and more. So then your value continues to rise and rise and rise. The other side of that is, and I did encounter this, where married couples would have the woman as the owner, and they would have the set aside, but the wife didn't really have anything to do with the business. So it's something to be aware of. No judgment, but that is something I did encounter. I do encounter. It does happen. So it is something to be aware of. It is something that potentially you could use if you find you have evidence that a business is doing that and they receive some type of competitive set aside. You could protest, alleging that the woman really has nothing to do with the company. It's a shell company, because these situations have occurred with the 8A, with the service disabled, with women owned. And that is why today you must go through that lengthy process to show that you are truly a woman owned small business. So just something out there. The other thing about this space is it provides a lot of opportunities for work-life balance. When I first started out, while I attended a plethora of conferences, I was driving all up and down the state of Florida. What was cool, most of my clients, as time went on, were outside of Florida, and I wasn't doing the work. So in the beginning, I was doing the work, but it was work that could have been completed basically at any hour of the day because of the nature of the work. And then as I grew, I wasn't involved in working on the actual client efforts. Instead, I was based and focused on business development, finance, some HR, and some other areas, which again, you can really spread them out throughout the day. So it gives you flexibility to spend more time with your family, spend more time with your kids, take care of any kind of personal things that you need to take care of, or if you have an older parent or a loved one that you really need to take care of, or maybe they live with you, this definitely provides that freedom. No BS, no cap. This is nothing but the truth. This space has allowed me to have a residence in Michigan, to travel to amazing places like Dallas, and to have my beautiful home as well as rental properties in the great state of Florida. It gives me tons of time. And what's been such a blessing is I get to spend as much time as my sister-in-law will allow with little baby James, my nephew. He's almost 3 months. So that's what's so great about this space, especially as you grow, is it gives you that flexibility. And keep in mind, there's government contracts all over the world. So your client may not be on the same time zone, which is awesome because it gives you all of this time. Another benefit of being a woman in this space is that if you were to purchase a business, especially if it's a government contracting business with active government contracts, and you go through the certification process, that business then becomes woman-owned if it weren't before you made the purchase. So that's really beneficial. Also, touching again on the value add. This is really key. If you form any type of joint venture with another company who is not WOSB, then the joint venture may pick up your certification as a WOSB. So these are just some really cool value adds, is that you have the opportunity for the set asides, that, things are going to happen. It's federal government. But the thing that's key throughout this entire process is to remember who you are. That's what's vital. Don't lose yourself. Know who you are. Surround yourself with people who support you and who can relate to you as a female business owner. I belong to an amazing CEO Nexus group out of Orlando, Florida. There's a couple members in there who are in government contracting. Majority aren't, but what's great is we have so much in common because we're business owners. And it's great to have that network. So I know who to go to for lines of credit or potential bankers, or to help with any other issues that may pop up if you want to sell your business. So it's also key to have a network and to be tapped into a network of business owners, entrepreneurs, so that they can help you along the way. Because this is a great space to be in. Over $500 billion is spent every year on federal government contracts. 5% allocated for us ladies. Please hit that notification button. I'm here to help you learn how to find, bid, and win profitable government contracts, so you don't have to go through all that I went through over these 10 plus years of being scammed and all kinds of drama. You don't want to have to, you ain't got to go through all that. So my amazing GovCon winners, I love and adore you so much, and I'm so thankful to you because I just want to give. So all I want to do is want to give to y'all. So with that, don't forget, y'all, everything is possible.